Hey everyone, it's the Stark Naked Radio crew, except that the crew today is just me and
Dr. Alice Nguyen.
it's just me and Alice today, which is how I prefer it because I just want to hang out with you, Alice.
Okay.
Um, anyways, that pesky Amir is not here today. So it's just we're gonna hang out with Dr. Alice and we're gonna do something a little different today. We're going to do something a little different. So it is a running joke around Stark that I have donated my body to science. And I'm oftentimes the guinea pig for different things we're experimenting. What was some of the highlights? MIC injections. That was a good one we did.
Yeah, definitely. The daily MIC, the fat burning nutrient.
That
one.
was a good one. That one made me feel high when we did the pushes.
Yeah, your eyes just went kind of cross-eyed.
Pretty much anything related to poop, I have tried except for fecal transplants, and that's TBD on whether or not I'll do that one. But yeah, so in general, we're constantly experimenting with things, and the most recent one that I did personally was an experiment to boost brain performance. So at the outset, I'm going to mention that this is anecdotal. That fair, Alice?
Yeah.
So obviously, there's some of the things that I did were more supported by research than others. But the idea was anything that could potentially improve my brain, I did. And so, and then also I tested it to see if my brain got better. Spoiler alert, the results were pretty good. So we're going to talk specifically. And then the other thing is I want to make mention of is this is focused on performance. So cognitive function, it's different than disease prevention, right? Because you want to talk about the research that supports brain health stuff. A lot of it has to do with decrease in risk of Alzheimer's and other brain-related disorders. So I'm focusing purely on performance.
Optimization actually is a good way.
Optimization would be a good way of doing it, yeah. And then the other thing too is I kept some variables controlled. So, for example, like things, the most of the research is suggesting that diet and a healthy diet and exercise are some of the healthiest things for your brain. Obviously, I was already doing those things, so I didn't really change much in terms of my general diet. I didn't change much in terms of my exercise program, and things like that. So I kind of kept those things relatively the same, but made some minor changes specifically focused towards the optimization of the brain. The other thing as well is my understanding, Alice, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is I was using a lot of the concepts from Dr. Brant Courtwright's book, The Neurogenesis Diet and Lifestyle. So he was a guest we had on the podcast a while back, and am I right in saying that not everyone believes neurogenesis is something you can accomplish?
Yeah, that's something that's being debated in the community right now, whether or not that happens or is it more neuroplasticity. So
explain the difference between neurogenesis and neuroplasticity.
So neurogenesis is the formation of new nerve cells, like new neurons. The original thinking is that we were actually, born with all the neurons that we have. And in fact, we lose them every single second of the day. Now, however,
so the life of your brain is like a battle of attrition.
Yeah.
So it's literally like whose brain stays better longer is the one who loses them the slowest.
Well, it's not. I mean, we have to have, of course, the death of certain neurons as we grow older. Again, if they're not being used, they need to be cleared out. However, neuroplasticity is something else. And, for the mentors that I have learned from, they are going to support more that side of the theory, that we actually have more neuroplasticity. So
that's like neural connections, right?
That's the building of the branching of each individual neuron itself, yeah.
Gotcha. So one side saying you're just making new connections.
Yep.
One side is you're actually making new neurons.
Yes.
Okay. So at the outset, before we get into it, so I was following things in the Neurogenesis Diet book. So whether or not neurogenesis is actually happening, I don't know. I did it anyways because it was kind of like I did like the shotgun approach.
Yeah.
Alice, where it's just like I threw everything I could think of from a brain health standpoint at it, and then we went from there. So first, before we get too far into it, let's talk about the tests. So to understand what we did or how I tested my brain is I basically spent a couple hours of testing across 3 different days. My pre-testing was pretty extensive. So what I did is, and I can, so should I pause it? Should I say where the tests are from, or is there something we can include that in, like in terms of the actual link? Should I just tell?
Do we have show notes?
We don't. Show notes aren't even a thing.
What does show notes mean? Because like I have like when I write like the bio.
Yeah, I know. I don't even know, but Tim Ferriss talks about them all the time, so I thought they were real. Okay.
Put a link in the. You could just say you put a link in the show notes and just send me it. I could put a link somewhere. I have a place for it.
Well, I don't know what I'm gonna put. I mean, there's a bunch of links, all these different things. Okay, so I'll just go. I won't mention it. Okay. So I tested memory recall. I tested math. There's certain things like I used Lumosity. Like, so Lumosity, I don't know if you know about that. That's like this brain training program. So you take like a pre-test and then it gives you like this brain training program and stuff. But I just did the pre-test. So I just did the entry test. And then when I post-tested, I just created a new account and redid the entry test to see how my scores compared. So that was like math and memory. I also tested my IQ beforehand. I did a bunch of tests for words per minute typing. So I did a lot of words per minute typing tests, and then I did a bunch of other random ones. Like there was some spatial shapes and things like that. There was some one I tested reaction time, so like my actual reaction time in milliseconds. I tested some different things that had to do with focus, like paying attention to focus, and then task changing, being able to change tasks and focus on different things. So there was a ton of tests. It was, like I said, it took me a few days, a couple hours each day. So I did that. So I had a really good idea of a baseline for how my brain was performing in order to optimize it. So that was the first thing. The next thing I did was I made a few dietary changes, some of which came from the Neurogenesis book, some of which came from your recommendations, Dr. Alice. So I'm kind of like blending a bunch of information here. The first one was I was eating sardines or mackerel for lunch 5 days a week. So why was I doing that, Alice?
So sardines are high in CoQ10. They're high in protein. If you're eating the bones within it, it's high in calcium. Also, the omega-3s, higher in DHA than the EPA content of the DHA, of the omega-3s, in fact. B12, also high in sardines as well. So we
Same with mackerel?
Mackerel, slightly different, but mackerel actually has high levels of magnesium, which is
really?
also important for brain function as well.
Okay, because I think I did do more mackerel than I did sardines.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So, but
Right.
but I did. I guess I did both. Like
Again,
a little
yeah,
bit,
both
and I
is
did
fine.
some salmon too.
Yeah,
So
and that's going to be high in astaxanthin.
Astaxanthin.
That's the orange kind of reddish color that you find in shrimp and in salmon. That's what colors it, and in krill as well.
Okay, and that's good for your brain.
That's it's called the king of the carotenoids.
The king of the carotenoids?
Yeah, it's considered like one of the carotenoids are, again, carrots will have that orange color. It's an antioxidant. Very important for the brain.
Is carrot and carotenoid, is that just like a coincidence?
Coincidence? I don't know.
All right. So anyway, so I was doing, so the first, again, generally speaking, high in protein, generally speaking, low in refined sugars, high in vegetables. These are things I was already employing. So I'm just addressing the changes I made, the specific changes. So I was doing the fish 5 days a week. The other thing I was doing was I was doing blueberries.
Yep.
I was doing 1 cup of blueberries a day, which was great because I like blueberries and they taste delicious and they're kind of like a treat. But again, that was one I got from the neurogenesis concept. But what is it specifically that you know about blueberries?
So blueberries or any of the darkly pigmented fruits are going to be high in anthocyanins. So anthocyanins are protective of, again, another antioxidant, but protective of the blood vessels as well. So not only is it great for the brain, but it's great for your cardiovascular system.
Gotcha.
The darker the pigment, so blueberries are one, but the other one, blackberries, they're amazing. The darker the pigment, the better it is.
Gotcha. And is there anything so you're saying this is true of of all dark berries, but what about, is there something about blueberries in particular?
It's just again the anthocyanins in them. So
Gotcha. I feel like there was something Brant Courtwright said that was about blueberries that was unique.
I forget. I was in that interview and I
I
forgot
think,
about
and I
what he
think
said.
that's I think the reason. Let's see. I think the reason was there's something specifically if on the neurogenesis side of things that blueberries had that was. Hold on. Pause, Jess. So it's significantly for the blueberries protecting against cardiac polyphenols,
Yeah, that's.
flavonoids.
Mhm.
And you said anthocyanins.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, ready? Pick it up. Are they? So you're saying the blueberries are not
No, they are.
higher in anthocyanins than other berries?
No, again, I think blackberries will actually be higher in anthocyanins, but
Gotcha.
they all have it. It's just it varies on the actual berry, the color itself too. I mean, honestly, the more color you have, the more variety, the better. So
Gotcha.
you'll have a different spectrum of it regardless.
So you're saying I probably should have done different berries.
Yeah. I try to encourage patients to do, the blackberries, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, even acai as well. We'll carry that as well.
So basically, I should just eat lots of acai bowls.
No, unless you want to tank
With
your
honey
triglycerides. Not tank, but
and
like
kiwi.
skyrocketed.
Yeah, so according to Brant Courtwright as well, the anthocyanins are one of the things that supposedly contribute to neurogenesis. So I was eating a lot of blueberries. I took a mental note for next time. I'm going to get some blackberries up in that business. Okay, those were the two big dietary changes I made. I know it doesn't seem like a whole lot, but when you're having like those fatty fish once a day, that actually, believe it or not, I think had a huge impact. I felt great when I was doing it. The other thing is I took a slew of supplements.
Yes, you did.
So I basically sort of almost put a hold on all my other supplements, and I just only did brain-based supplements. So I'm going to kind of go through these one by one, and again, some of them are more well-known to be brain beneficial, but then other ones are, potentially more, I wouldn't say controversial, but they're less well researched, right? So the first thing, and possibly, so the most foundational one is I was taking vitamin D3 and K2.
Mm-hmm.
So we know we recently did an awesome video on why you should get some vitamin D, get some D up in ya. But talk to me, Alice, about and we know vitamin D is just massively beneficial for a lot of reasons. But what's the deal with brain health specifically?
First of all, vitamin D is a hormone, so it affects almost every single cell in the body.
Yeah, what's up with that? Why is it called vitamin D?
So, well, first of all, the actual definition of a hormone is a substance that will actually affect the nucleus of the cell and affect basically gene expression.
Mm-hmm.
So, vitamin D is one of those things will go, pass through and go right to the nucleus of the cell to affect whether or not things get expressed or not in your DNA. So one example of that is, of course, hormone receptors. Mm-hmm. You need vitamin D in place to ensure that, your sex hormone receptors are even being made on the cell. So I've seen a few cases where patients were put on testosterone replacement or any hormone replacement, in fact, and they did not feel the effects of it, the benefits of it.
Because they didn't have enough vitamin D.
We did do a more comprehensive workup on them to see what they were missing, and they were completely tanked in their vitamin D. We repleted that, they started to feel better. But again, it's just things that are needed to make neurotransmitters, hormones, all that stuff, things to work. You do need vitamin D in place. There is an ex-neurosurgeon who has quit his profession, and his whole thing is that he doesn't even believe in the supplementation of D. But in fact, he says you have to get it from the sun. Like and again, we meet our patients where they are. We don't want to be like, no, you've got to do the sun or nothing at all. So it's better to supplement instead of not. Now the K in there, K is one nutrient that not a lot of people know about and almost everyone is deficient in. The reason why is because vitamin K2 in particular is found in like the highest level that we know of is in a fermented food called natto. It's really gross. It's a fermented soybean. I eat lots of
That's
things.
the only food it's in?
It's in others, but it's the highest in that
Gotcha.
particular food. The Japanese love it. They eat it. It's part of their breakfast. It is disgusting, in my opinion. So, again, it's
I like it.
have you tried it?
No, but I think it sounds good.
No, it's like the consistency of snot, man. It's gross. You got to whip it up. It's nasty. But
Whip it up.
the reason why that's important is that it ensures that the calcium that's floating around in your blood gets deposited onto bone and not in your soft tissue. So you don't want calcification of blood vessels, especially in the brain. So if you were to ever look at a picture of what the brain vasculature looks like, it's a massive nest of like a web of blood vessels. So when it comes to brain health, you want to make sure that oxygenation and blood flow is optimal to the brain. And if you have any sort of calcification in the blood vessels, you're going to have impaired kind of oxygen and nutrient flow through the blood vessels as well.
Gotcha. And K2 is going to help with that.
Yeah, K2 is very important for that.
The other thing I was taking was I was having an acetyl L-carnitine powder in my first water drink in the morning. I'd add that to my water bottle.
Cool.
What does that do?
So carnitine is part of is necessary to shuttle fatty acids into the mitochondria, which are the powerhouses to your cells, in order for those fats to be used as energy. So it's part of the whole beta oxidation of fats. Now,
so hold on. That you just said a bunch of big words.
Gotcha. Sorry.
So
first of all, let me just back up a little bit. The acetyl carnitine is what you want.
okay,
Carnitine.
That's what I was taking.
Yeah, carnitine is poorly absorbed if it's not acetylated, like if there's not an acetyl group attached to it.
Okay.
So you want that acetylcarnitine on board so that it gets through the gut quickly or more efficiently. And
so it gets absorbed into the bloodstream faster.
Yeah, it's a higher absorption rate.
Gotcha.
It's more expensive because of that.
Yeah.
Now, carnitine is necessary for proper mitochondrial function. And the mitochondria are the powerhouses to almost all your cells in the body. And in your brain, you will have a massive amount of mitochondria. So I ask this with every single one of my patients. If the powerhouse to a city goes out, what happens to the city? Goes dark.
There's no lights.
No lights, or it doesn't work as well. So we want to support the mitochondria as best as we can. And one of the ways to do it is, of course, making sure that carnitine is in place. Now, where is carnitine? Carne, protein. So this is one of the markers that I look at in a micronutrient panel to see if a patient is even eating enough meat or protein in the first place.
So you'll see a deficiency in carnitine for vegetarians and vegans?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. For sure.
And so basically the dummy version is carnitine helps transport. Is a transporter.
Yeah, it's a fat transporter.
Fat transporter.
It's fat burner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, fat burner, baby.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, what people don't realize is that generally from a macronutrition perspective, we associate carbs with energy. But fats are actually a very potent energy source.
Yeah, it actually is a very
food.
potent. Yeah.
I mean, there's more calories of energy per gram of fat than there is carbs or protein.
Yes. And in fact, whenever a person decides to go on a ketogenic diet, carnitine is one of the things that I'll use to help them adjust into that kind of ketogenic state. So they're able to utilize
ketosis.
Yeah, well, yes.
Do you have them do the strips every morning?
No. Okay, but having the carnitine in place will allow for the fats to be utilized as energy a lot quicker.
Okay. The next thing was NADH plus CoQ10.
Yes.
Now I like this one because this particular supplement, which is the one from Seeking Health, is the name of the brand.
Yeah.
It's a lozenge.
It's a lozenge.
So it was it's like a little lemony flavored thing that I would suck on in the morning. But yeah, so what is that doing for me?
So NAD is one of the things that yet again will go back into mitochondrial support.
So a lot of what I was doing was focused on the mitochondria.
Yeah, it always comes back there.
Yeah, because if the mitochondria, which are the powerhouse of cells, are working more effectively, then all the cells of my brain are going to be
Yeah.
more effective, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as your energy producers are working well, then yeah, you're going to do well with your function.
And the NADH, is that the same thing as like the NAD we're putting in the IV formulations?
It is similar, yes.
Similar? Gotcha.
So they basically, so NADH is actually the first of 5 enzymes complexes of the electron transport chain in the mitochondria. So I know that's a mouthful,
I
but
know. I was just taking all these pills. I did not realize how complicated what I was doing was.
the human body is very complicated. Now, you can NADH we can't actually get as an IV nutrient in America, I think. The
Okay.
last I checked. But NAD, yes, you can. So
Okay.
it kind of goes back NAD, NADH. But every single biochemical kind of process in the body requires it. Now,
Wow.
if you've ever had an
How do we
NAD,
not talk more about this then?
well, we talk about a lot of things. Now we do have patients who, again, if they're aware of this, and usually if you're in the biohacker kind of feel,
You should leave.
I know.
my
Well,
life.
so you will know about NAD. This is also advertised a lot.
People are saying that NAD is a biohack.
It is one of the quote hacks. Again,
So
it's
what
an-
it
it's an
means
energy
is it
producer.
actually just like helps improve things.
Energy production, yes.
Okay.
Now, it is also one of the things that will lengthen telomeres as well.
Wow.
So that's why a lot of these guys are getting NAD IV drips. Now, the other kind of side of NAD is that it's used in detoxification and rehab. So patients who are actually going through withdrawal from alcohol or opiates or any of that stuff, they would utilize this to help them speed up that or at least shorten the withdrawal kind of the misery of it. We don't use it as that. This is not, we're not equipped for that.
Yeah.
But
Just
yeah.
from a performance standpoint or
But from a
optimization standpoint.
Definitely. Ben Greenfield talks about it a lot. I think there are centers where you can, for 5 days, you could get like 1,000 milligrams of NAD over a 5-day period each day. It's
Wow.
miserable. I've actually had one patient who's done it, paid a
What?
lot of money for it, $10,000, I believe.
What?
And he was miserable. But afterwards, he says, "Yeah, my brain worked better for about like a month or so, I
Crazy.
think." So
Crazy. And CoQ10. I always think, I associate CoQ10 with heart stuff, like CV risk and things like that. But what about the brain?
CoQ10 is also part of that mitochondrial complex as well. You need it. You need CoQ10 for things to work. So ubiquinone. Now, what is it highest in foods? You're going to find it in heart. You're going to find it in
Like
liver.
eating heart, eating liver? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, and
It's getting primal.
most Americans will not eat that.
Yeah.
So that's why I do see suboptimal CoQ10 levels. Now, if you don't have enough of it, your heart.
There's no other
beats.
places to get it than organ meat?
Sardines.
Oh.
So,
okay.
yeah,
All right.
the
So
three
you guys, hey, if you guys are going to do this experiment, you better go all in and do the sardine and mackerel thing.
Yeah, if you don't, then you can do a supplement for it.
Yeah.
Now, the form of CoQ10 is important. Some people, genetically speaking, they cannot convert ubiquinone into ubiquinol, which is the active form. So
Okay.
I'm one of those people.
So you should get the ubiquinol form.
Yeah. So we only
Does
actually
that say it on the back? What
not
form it's
all
in?
not all nutrients will say it.
Really?
Yeah. So we do. I'm not sure what Seeking Health has, but it is a more expensive form, the ubiquinol form.
Okay.
So that's why we actually here at Stark we only have the ubiquinol form because I just will act empirically upon that.
Gotcha. I was also taking vitamin E. I was fortunate enough to find vitamin E in the form of a chocolate.
Yes.
So it was like I was justified in eating my chocolate. I mean, it wasn't as good as real chocolate, but you're like, oh, it's vitamin E, so it's good for me. And then you had that. What about that? What's that going to do for me?
Whenever you're looking at performance, you have to consider antioxidants.
Okay.
So all the things that you're taking right now are pretty nice, potent antioxidants.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to at least vitamin E, that is one antioxidant that we want to have on board, especially when with the brain, because it helps with the actual cell membrane itself.
Mm-hmm.
So the cell membrane of the neuron, again, very important to have those healthy. So when it comes to at least the three antioxidants that you want to have on board. It's actually vitamin C, which we actually had in your IVs. The other one
We'll get to that in a second.
The other one is glutathione, which we had in your IVs.
Yep.
And the third one to complete the triplet, what we call the redox triplet, is in fact vitamin E or mixed tocopherols and vitamin E. So that one again, just to help balance everything out and stabilize the cell membranes for you.
Gotcha. And then speaking of another very potent antioxidant, the other thing I was taking was green tea extract.
Yeah.
So green tea extract, and this is another one I got from the Neurogenesis diet book, is high in polyphenols.
Yes.
Which, according to Dr. Brent Cortright, helps increase something called BDNF.
Yes.
Which is brain-derived neurotropic factor.
Yes.
That has something to do with this concept of neurogenesis, assuming that it's actually happening.
Right. Or it's important for neuroplasticity too.
Okay, so either way, whether it's on the neuroplasticity or neurogenesis side, the BDNF from the polyphenols in green tea are going to be good, right?
Yeah, okay. And in fact, exercise is the other thing that will stimulate BDNF as well.
Boom.
It's actually one of the most potent stimulators of BDNF. So whenever I meet people who say, oh, I'm taking a bunch of vitamins and supplements and all that stuff to try to stimulate BDNF, and I'm like, were you exercising? And they're like, no. And I'm like, yeah, you're kind of missing a really huge piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, so I mean, if to use the, if we're talking like the bulletproof Dave Asprey model, like rather than like eating well and like rather than exercising and getting benefits, you just try and supplement everything, right?
Well, no, I mean, I think the whole bulletproof kind of circle, they are doing more exercises, all they're kind of wonky exercises in my opinion. Some of the weird machines that they have, I'm like, oh, come on, you guys, just pick a freaking dumbbell or a barbell. So
gotcha. So green tea, according to the Neurogenesis diet, caffeine is something that inhibits neurogenesis. I did not I ordered one freaking green tea matcha latte, and I was like, screw this. I don't care. My brain's just not going to get as awesome, apparently.
Yeah.
So, but the green tea extract I was taking did have some caffeine in it. So,
a little bit. But again, there's debate with that too, in regards to caffeine being a problem. There is a theory out there that the Renaissance, the Italian Renaissance, only happened because of the introduction of coffee. So,
great. All the more reason to drink it.
I think that the jury is still out in regards to caffeine when it comes to neurogenesis or neuroplasticity.
Yeah. Hesperidin methylchalcone.
That one you found in the book.
That was off the book.
Yes,
yep.
I was like,
and I'm not exactly. I can't exactly remember his reasoning for why that was good, other than it contributed to neurogenesis.
Yeah, I can't really speak to that. So.
Well, I took it anyways.
Good, cool.
And it was a green pill, which was exciting. So that was another one, and whether or not the success of the test hinged on that supplement, we did do that. He explains that in our interview with him. If you want to go back a few episodes, he talks about specifically what hesperidin methylchalcone does. The other thing, and again, this is probably one that in the past I would say has had. I would say if there's any supplement that I have noticed and felt the difference, the effects of the most, it would be B vitamins.
Yeah.
So I was taking a pretty hefty dose of a B complex, which was the B active from Zymogen. Obviously, there's a lot out there about why B vitamins are good, but specifically on the brain side, Alice, what's the deal with B vitamins?
So B12 in particular is important for the maintenance of your nerve cells. Okay. So the axon, the myelin sheaths that allow for the quicker conduction between each neuron requires B vitamin, the B12 in particular.
Gotcha.
So in the pathological case where a person is taking a proton pump inhibitor, an acid blocker,
that's like your
like a Prilosec or something
that.
They are going to be low in B12 because you need acid in order to absorb B12 and in fact iron. But they found that patients who are on long-term PPI use, there's a higher prevalence, a higher risk for dementia for those patients. It's because they are
Whoa.
going to be deficient in B12. I've seen this
Crazy.
in my patients who are on those.
So what happens is you take these PPIs, you become, because you need acid to absorb B12, you become B12 deficient.
Yep.
Because you're B12 deficient, those the myelin sheath and basically the actual materials that connect the neurons
Yeah, well,
suffer.
it's not the connectors. It's kind of like the insulators on the neurons.
Gotcha. Oh,
So it allows for quicker conduction.
Gotcha.
So instead of like a slow conduction down the axon, the signal, the electrical signal, actually does a skip. So it increases the actual speed of conduction. It's kind of like how a lot of our electrical cords are insulated with something.
Yeah.
So, anywho, so that one again, they will start to degenerate, and you will start to see, of course, an increase in the in dementia, Alzheimer's, any sort of the neurodegenerative disorders.
Crazy. So is there much research linking B12 deficiency and Alzheimer's?
It's one of the things. Alzheimer's is multifactorial.
Gotcha.
Very, very, very multifactorial.
But a vitamin B deficiency does have the potential to, like, sort of slow down your reaction time.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, the other thing is like B6 is required to make serotonin and melatonin.
Oh,
So
wow.
you need that. B5 is actually there to help support your adrenals. And of course, you want to keep cortisol in check. So if cortisol gets too high, that is actually catabolic to the brain. So that's another kind of more of a root cause sort of situation when it comes to the B vitamins. Now, folate is something that is required to make neurotransmitters as well, or the degradation of them. Not having that on board will affect the chemicals that are floating around in your brain. So all of those are, like the B vitamins are really, really important. It's one of the things that in most of the tests, in the micronutrient tests that we do, we will find some sort of suboptimal or deficient levels in every single person.
Every single person has a B vitamin deficiency.
Some sort of B, yeah. So, or at least they're like
Crazy.
suboptimal in it.
Okay.
Now, where are they found in food? Yet again, a lot of the proteins, protein, and organ meats will have, of course, more. And most people just right off the bat when they come in here, we're not going to see them having high levels of it.
What about carbs?
Carbs are great. That's fine.
Is there something? What about B12 or B vitamins in carb sources?
Nope.
No.
Not B12, no. B12 is going to be found, like I said, there's going to be vegetarians will have, or vegans in particular, will have a B12 deficiency in particular because, again, it's found in meat or sardines. So if you're going to be, if you don't want to eat land animals, at least eat the sardines and the mackerel, the smaller fish, because they're going to have higher levels of those nutrients.
Gotcha. And then obviously someone who is a vegan or vegetarian for philosophical reasons, they got to supplement.
You've got to supplement, yeah.
Okay. I was taking a product called NeuroResponse by Innate Response Formulas.
Yep. So that one will contain bacopa, holy basil leaf, as well as ashwagandha in the form of sensoril.
So are these what people call? You hear especially our biohackers out there. They're gonna love this podcast. You hear nootropics get thrown around.
Yes. So bacopa is considered a nootropic, a botanical nootropic.
What's a nootropic?
Like anything that basically helps with mental, cognitive function, also considered with either neurogenesis or neuroplasticity.
So technically, all these things could be like. So is that a nebulous definition? What is it? What is a nootropic?
The nootropic is going to be specifically nervous system oriented.
Okay, so it is. Okay. So
Yeah.
it's going to be supplements that are specifically, so like something like B12. Is that
I mean, it's very general.
Okay.
B12 is very, very, very general.
Gotcha. So anything that's nervous system focused is going to qualify as a nootropic.
Yeah,
Okay.
an enhancement of it. So Bacopa monieri, it's a very fascinating herb. It's actually one of my favorite herbs, as you know, the ND at heart.
You have favorite herbs?
Yeah, we have favorite herbs.
Like what happens? Like do you guys like get together and like do you guys have
We-
trading cards?
No,
Cards like, I'll give you my Bacopa for your ashwagandha.
we sit with the herb, we just meditate.
Gosh,
with-
it's so weird.
We dance
You're
under the
so
moon.
weird.
With
You guys have, is there like a top 40 chart for herbs?
I
Like,
mean, listen, there
among
are
NDs?
I mean, some people, like, if you ever go to any of these ND conferences whenever they're talking about herbs, the way that some of these docs talk about their herbs, it's kind of amazing. It's very
Yeah,
romantic.
but what's more, yeah, what are they more into though, herbs or crystals?
Ooh, that's a different group of people right there.
All right.
So
you got
there is a good amount of research behind Bacopa.
okay.
It is one of the Ayurvedic herbs originally. Has been shown to repair damaged nerves. So they have done studies with Bacopa for treating patients with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And they have found, of course, in normal patients, definitely improvement in recall, consolidating new information. I believe is an RCT that they did it for like 12 weeks for Bacopa in particular. Now, Bacopa I have used when I was studying for board exams. That was something that I pretty much OD'd on,
You say pretty much OD'd on, like you just took a lot of it, or did anything weird happen?
I mean, I took a lot of it. It's, I mean, I passed. Obviously, I'm sitting here at Stark, as their licensed doctor. But yeah, I think it's. I personally have not
It was
taken
all
it in a
because
while.
of the Bacopa.
No,
You would
a
have
few
failed
other
without the Bacopa.
things. A few other things. But this one also has
You're like
theanine.
knocking back herbs and then Adderall, like.
Herbs and Adderall. That was my Adderall, actually. Yeah. So no, we did it in tincture form.
Love me some tinctures.
There is an amazing company called Heron Botanicals where they, the master herbalist is an ND. His name is Eric Yarnell, and he formulates all of these herbs together. And Bacopa is one of the nutrients, but it's I think it's like a formulation of 10 different botanicals in there to help with, studying for boards and getting it done. So.
Can you do it for other forms of study or just for ND boards?
I'm pretty sure you can do it for all sorts of things.
Okay.
No,
I wasn't sure if it was like you had to be in with the ND thing to get it.
No, not at all.
Your ND dealers.
I think I actually drank like a whole 64 ounces of it, when I was studying for boards. So that's a lot of tincture.
You're
by
crazy,
the way.
Alice.
That's a lot of tincture.
Gosh,
That's a lot of tincture. Trust me.
You're
Okay.
getting out of hand here.
Stop.
Last but not least, I was taking krill oil. Specifically, it's called Xanthomega Krill Oil by Stark.Health. That was the actual supplement I was taking. But krill oil.
Krill oil. So that is Stark.Health. I've tried a few other of the krills, by the way, different krill oils. This one, they have the krill oil, and then they add astaxanthin extract to it on top of it, which is pretty fascinating. So
Tell me more.
Out of all, seriously, I've tried a lot of fish oil. For the past 10 years, I've taken lots and lots of fish oil, different types. Honestly, didn't really notice a difference. I'm going to be really honest with you. It'll show up in my labs that there are improvements, but when it comes to actual function, something that I really, really notice, this is the one product on top of Nano Mojo by Quicksilver that really I felt like I was my brain is working a lot better. Now the reason why is because krill oil is actually bound to what we call phospholipids. Now phospholipids will enter the brain more easily, more readily than your typical triglyceride or monoglyceride forms of omega-3s. Mm-hmm. So it's going to affect the brain more powerfully than your other fish oils. So this is something that I reserve.
Because it goes across the blood-brain barrier more easily, or what's the?
Yeah, pretty much.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What's the deal? Okay, so MCT oil.
Yeah.
Which gets peddled as this brain superfood kind of thing, or it's super fuel for the brain. Mm-hmm. What's the difference between something like a medium chain triglyceride and the krill oil, or the phospholipids?
Well, first of all, the krill oil is an omega-3.
Okay.
MCT is not.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a medium chain. Again, it can be easily used, more readily used as energy, especially if you're on a ketogenic diet. Mm-hmm. I've used it. Again, I'm okay with it. I mean, if a person does, they say they're keto, but they're not, we're going to see some really horrible lipid numbers, like cholesterol numbers. So if I had to choose between MCT or krill, I'm going to choose krill. So
Gotcha.
krill has, a lot of other things, like we mentioned earlier, the astaxanthin content in there, one of the carotenoids, one of the antioxidants. The fact that it's an omega-3, so we definitely need more of that, and just the phospholipid-bound nature of it. It's what they say that is that it's more readily used as an omega-3.
Gotcha.
So some people actually, I forgot his name. He's the guy who wrote Super Fuel and also the Salt Fix. He takes like 9 grams a day.
9 grams of krill.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. I'm taking about like 5 a day.
Gotcha. That's James
Yes.
D. Nicolantonio
Yeah, I can't pronounce his last name.
and Mercola.
Yeah, Dr. McCullough co-wrote that book.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, so
So
lots
he takes
of krill.
9.
Dang.
Now that guy's a smart guy. Like he is.
So I should up my dose.
Yeah, I mean, again, so I don't supplement with other forms of fish oil. I try to eat at least 8 ounces of some sort of omega-3 fatty fish every day, and then of course I put that krill oil on top of it,
Gotcha.
just for the astaxanthin, because you're gonna have to eat a lot of krill in order to get the same amount of astaxanthin that's in the xanthomega product.
The designs for a health one.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's all the sub. Man, Alice, you're so smart. I want to be as smart as you when I grow
I
up.
have no idea what you're talking about.
Guys,
It's all the pills.
For you
It's all the
people,
pills.
the people who are listening, she is like just rattling this stuff off the top of her head.
Not really. I have my computer in front
She
of
has her
me.
computer, but she's not looking at it much. You're smart, Alice. Don't undersell yourself.
Now, I would have actually added something else to your
Ah!
measurement, and we didn't know about it, and that is in fact NanoMojo.
Oh yeah, we just found out about that
yeah,
product.
we just found
That's
out,
an
and
adaptogen.
that is what's special about that is that it's a liposomal form of an adaptogen. So I've been playing around with adaptogens for the past 10 years as well. And honestly, I feel somewhat, the reason why I didn't go crazy in med school and boards and working here in the first 2 years.
Why would you go crazy working here?
Sure. All right. So, is because I was always taking some sort of adaptogen. So I was using, in fact, innate responses, adrenal support, complete care, adrenal response complete care. And I take it because I was like, okay, I think it might help. But the NanoMojo, I do feel a massive kind of support when it comes to my stress response. And in fact, it's so... I'm not the only one. I thought, I was like, okay, maybe, I don't know, placebo affected me. No, I gave it to Amir, who's honestly one of the biggest skeptics of a lot of the supplements, and he is selling it to everyone right now.
Yeah.
But I would have added that. There is a lot to be said about keeping your cortisol in check. So remember, I think even, who's that doctor again? Sorry, the neurogenesis diet.
Brant Court, right?
I mean, there are a lot of docs who basically will say that cortisol is catabolic to the brain. It will start to destroy brain tissue if it's left unchecked for a long period of time. So, that's been really instrumental in keeping things sharp for me as well. A combination of that plus the NanoMojo and the Xanthomega.
Got it. All right. So that's it for the supplements. There's some nerdy stuff in here. Some of you will be stoked on that. Other people will be like super confused like me.
So
The other thing, last but not least, in terms of my brain performance experiments, we were doing brain bags. Talk to me about what was in the brain bags. Now, for those of you that may or may not know, we do a lot of IV therapy here. We talk about it a lot. I just would stick my arm out, and Alice would plug me up to who knows what. So I don't ask questions. I just let it go into my veins.
Just let it flow.
What were you putting in my brain IVs?
So the formulation for the brain bag includes ascorbic acid, vitamin C.
Vitamin C, which is one of the 3 antioxidants you said you need.
Yeah, the redox triplet, as we call it.
The old redox triplet, huh?
The B complex, carnitine, taurine as well, B5, B6.
Oh yeah, How come I wasn't taking taurine?
I think weren't you already taking that?
No, I'm taking it now, but
Yeah,
I wasn't taking it then. Oh,
So-
you know what? I may have been taking it.
No, I think you were taking it.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
So okay, yeah.
Because I had
taurine's great.
I had some other supplements besides the ones we listed. I was already on, like my digestive stuff and all that.
Yeah. taurine is a fascinating substance. Now, first, everyone thinks it's a stimulant because it's in Red Bull. That is not the case.
Yeah, it's like the opposite, right?
No, it's not the opposite. What taurine does is that it acts like a traffic cop for the ions that go between your cell membrane. So the reason why they put taurine there in Red Bull is to ensure that you don't get like crazy arrhythmias from all the stimulants that are actually in Red Bull itself.
Interesting.
So it's like I said, it's a traffic cop. You know, the more technical term is that it's the master osmolalite.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're doing good with a traffic cop analogy, Alice.
Yeah.
It's like almost making it simple to understand. Then you went with osmolite.
I'm trying. Yes, I know. So, so that one is put in a little bit in the brain bag. Also, a little bit of calcium. Selenium is an antioxidant that will help, of course, make recycle glutathione. What else? Let me see. Magnesium's in there, bicarbs in there, and B12 and folate as well. So and it's
a lot of stuff I was already taking.
Pretty much, yeah.
And then some additional stuff that really topped me off.
Right, and of course we add a glutathione push after that because glutathione, again, master antioxidant, master detoxifier. In the brain, you're going to find in patients with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, they've done autopsies on these patients and biopsies on their brain tissue and found that glutathione was very, very low or maybe missing. So this is one of the things that we do utilize a lot when it comes to our IV therapy. At Stark, we give about 1 gram of glutathione, about 1,000 milligrams to most patients. Now, people like Todd and a few of my other people who like to optimize health, they get between 3 to 4 grams every week. So 3 to 4,000. Now, that's not something that's commonly done. I don't usually hear of other practices doing that, but here we get to experiment and see what happens.
Awesome. Okay, sweet. So that's pretty much it. That was the program.
Cool.
So obviously you guys want to know whether or not it worked. My results showed improvement in 100% of tests taken, which is pretty crazy. Like obviously I took all the stuff, I assimilated it. I mean, not meaning like every single like question or every single individual test improved, but like as I aggregated or as I analyzed all the data. So I took all my memory recall tests, I took all my reaction time tests, I took all my words per typing tests, and across the board, 100% of categories there was improvement. My recall went up, my reaction time went down in terms of the actual milliseconds, my words per minute typing increased. My IQ actually went up 2 points, which is kind of crazy to think about, right? Like obviously the IQ test is partially just a problem solving test, but obviously if you're thinking more clearly, your reaction time is better. That's going on, and that's really a good thing. Lots of stuff, like even there was this weird facial recognition test that I did, and that improved. So all kinds of stuff. So if you're interested in doing stuff to improve your brain, you can take any and all of the things we talked about today. Doc, thanks for explaining to me why I did all this crazy stuff all at the same time. But yeah, so please feel free to check this out. And then again, loop back to that interview with Brant Courtright on the neurogenesis diet, and you can hopefully take your brain to the next level. And I will say, outside of the objective measurements I took, like the word per minute testing, memory recall, things like that, I did feel much better. My sense of alertness, my sense of focus, all of those things, kind of the more subjective measures that you do pay attention to, those improved too. I'm glad the numbers show it, so I don't think I was crazy and just like, fell for the placebo effect. But actually, all this stuff did really, really work from a brain optimization standpoint. So hopefully that's helpful. There's a different show. We'd love to know what you guys think. Please feel free to reach out to us on Instagram or Facebook, and we'd love to know if any of you guys have other brain-related stuff that you guys are doing, because the better we think, the better we perform. Jess, take us away.
Must be krill on the brain, yeah. and it keeps cursing my name. No matter what I do, I'm no good without you, and I can't get enough. Must be krill on the brain.
Oh, yeah. Speaking my
That's
language.
awesome.